Dear audience, welcome to the show POWERchat. In today's episode, we are discussing on English language education in Nepal. Joining us today is Professor Laxman Gnawali, associated with Kathmandu University, who is also the Senior Vice President of Nepal English Language Teachers Association, NELTA. Please allow me to welcome him. Welcome to the show, Professor Gnawali.
Thank you.
How have you been?
Doing well.
Well, you have been into education for a long time.
Yes.
2.5 decades with Kathmandu University teaching English language at the university level, also serving at Nepal English Language Teachers Association.
Yes.
Which looks after the language and training issues of English language teachers.
Yes.
How do you observe the overall state of English language education in general and the education system in particular?
Thank you. It's a very timely question. Actually, the two are connected in the Nepalese context. If you look at the general education system in the country, it has got different layers actually. Like there are some schools which are doing very, very well, producing very good graduates, and there are other schools which are almost a failure. And many of them actually are merged every year. I mean, some primary schools go into a merger because they are losing their students. And if you see this, why this is happening, I mean, what makes the schools perform better and what makes people go into a merger actually has a link to English language education in the country, which it should not be, but it has been. Like parents in the country and even the graduates themselves, they believe that if you have got good English, then that's better education than not having good English. So the schools that teach well through English medium instruction, they are attracting more students, more parents, they are doing good business. So if you look at the data, 21% of the students in the country that go to school actually go to private English medium schools, and then 79% go to public schools which are not English medium. But as a desperate move in this scenario, parents wanted to pull out their children from public schools, community schools, and put them into private schools or English medium schools so that they will have a better future. And the tool or the strategy of private schools is simply, in most cases, giving good English, and then schools are losing students, public schools are losing students. And what the local government leaders in some places did is, they devised a policy by which students, all schools need to teach all subjects except language course like Nepali through English medium education. So the two are, taken synonymous. Like if graduates have good English, then education is good. But I don't think that's the case, because English is just a language, and education means many other things. Life skills, occupational possibility, and then maybe having good values in the society, and then maybe maintaining their tradition. There are many things, but we are perhaps defining wrongly what education is.
What is the role of teachers or the educators convincing the guardian that English is just a language and the quality of education should not be measured on the basis of language?
Okay, but it's a very difficult situation. Issue, because you're asking me what the educator should be doing to convince parents and the community that English is just a language. But unfortunately, it is the educators who have jobs in public schools, government funded jobs,
and they are sending their children to private schools,
if they can, to private English medium schools. So now, they are not in position to actually convince parents and guardians and the community that English is just a language. Actually, they are setting a wrong example actually in most cases. Lately the government has set certain criteria that the children, the school graduates will be eligible for certain quotas, certain scholarships only if they come through public school system. But what is happening is they send students to private schools up to grade 9, and only in grade 10 they register them in public school. That's how they try to just
for getting good marks,
whitewash, and get good marks. But they now have a certificate that proves that they come from public system, which is actually not true.
Well, Professor Gnawali, could you also shed light on the indicators of quality education?
For me personally, a good education is overall personality of a person. I mean, we should be producing those kind of graduates who not only think for themselves but think of the family, think of the community, think of the Nepali society as a whole. But why I see there is a problem in the current education is many students after +2 or let's say grade 12 pass, or after bachelor's, let's say, they try to leave the country. So one quality or one criterion for good education is love for the country. The passion to promote the culture, the language, the traditions of the country, but it is not happening. And the other criterion is employability. I think that's where we are sort of failing. That is, when you get an education, then you definitely need to earn for yourself. But we have certain subjects, certain kind of degrees that do not give you employable skills. And then what the graduates do is they try to leave the country. So things are complicated.
Well, you have started with the forum called NELTA.
Yeah.
I mean, the English language teachers started this,
Yes.
and you are with this organization as senior vice president. Decades past that you have been organizing, several interaction among English language teachers
Yes.
across the country.
Yes.
What are the changes you have seen throughout these all years establishing this organization? Any changes occurred in schools, at universities, because of your presence discussing the standards of English language?
So you are indicating that NELTA has been there working on English language teaching, English language education. So what is the impact upon overall English language teaching? NELTA was established as a forum for English teachers to help them develop their professional skills, to help them develop networks outside their local domain, so they can have exposure. Overall English language education would be better. I think we have made a good impact upon this, because through NELTA many of its members and some non-members have gained education in the country and outside the country. Degree programs also they have been given opportunities for. And they have come back and they have written books, they have done training, and they have done research, and they have been involved in English language testing. So they have definitely made some impact in the English language education overall. But if you ask me data, we don't have data as such. But from 2007 we started working on English language teaching survey, ELT survey of Nepal. That has got some data already in place, but we haven't finished the project there. So once that comes out, perhaps we can give you the data, how many what human resource we produced through.
What are you expecting from that survey as such?
Okay, firstly, this will be, the report will be a reference, common reference for all those who want to find some information about ELT in Nepal, English language teaching in Nepal. For example, simple thing, how many English teachers are there in Nepal who teach English in public system, private system, and then in non-formal system? We don't have the data. We can have just gross data from the flash report the Department of Education publishes every year. And then maybe from, if you look at NELTA's perspective, then we have 5,000 life members and 2,000 plus general members, so about 7,000. But that is not the whole picture of what the number is. And then we also would like to know how many students get how much marks or what grade in English, and where they fail, and which area we need to improve. I think that document will give us a lot of information. And plus, curriculum keeps changing because it has a life. And then Nepalese government and Nepal education also responds to that change internationally and nationally. And then even now, last year the curriculum was changed. So what is the impact? What is the focus of the curriculum? So that ELT survey should inform us in principles and in practice.
Well, how do you evaluate the English curricula at the school and university level? Curricula up to the international standards?
I think as far as the curriculum is concerned, I agree with you. We compare, because whenever we develop the curriculum, we actually compare our curriculum, existing curriculum in international level. Like this year, from last year, I was involved in the curriculum revision process, or let's say development, because we developed a new sort of curriculum, a thematic curriculum. What we did, we looked at the curricula of several countries to see what is their focus: knowledge, skills, attitude, values. Not only in English, but in many other subjects. And then we try to see that our curriculum does not fall below the international level. But in Nepal, the problem is in the implementation, because of the human resource, because of the financial resource, because of other issues that we fall short in the implementation of the curriculum that we have. I read a news report lately that in some schools in the Himalayan region, the schools are now closed. It's not even December, it's November. And I hear that the children will come back to schools in April only. So almost half the year the schools don't run. Now a quality education will not work if we do not have an option how we implement that curriculum in such situations. Are
you of the opinion that teachers are not proficient in the areas?
It's not just teachers. There are issues with the teachers. Okay, our teachers, we have got teachers whose English is very good, but we also have teachers whose English language proficiency is not up to the mark. But there are some teachers who have English as well as technical know-how, how to teach, but the other teachers who have good English, but there is problem in delivery. But there are also other issues. Despite having good English, despite having good methodological or language pedagogy skills, there are social, economic and political situations, like the teacher unions, make them proof from being fired if they do not perform well. So things are really complicated. You cannot blame just teachers, because there are some teachers. In one of the research I conducted in one district in the Himalayan region, one in the hilly region, one in the Terai region, I found out that there are some teachers who struggle and who actually devise certain techniques to help children learn. You may not believe that I found a primary school teacher who uses YouTube videos to teach ABC in a public school. And when I asked her, who funds your this YouTube connection, data or a Wi-Fi connection, she says there is no Wi-Fi. She uses her own data and it's her own smartphone. So there are teachers like that. So you cannot blame this or that. I think the whole scenario must be revamped.
There is criticism, Professor Gnawali, that there is no effective oversight body to look after the capacities or skills of teachers or sometimes administrators within schools and universities.
Yes.
How can overall evaluation system be improved?
Actually, the government system has a certain mechanism. They used to have school supervisors In Nepali, we use the acronym MABINI, this word. Now they are not functioning with the original purpose, and there is this resource center where there is a resource person who is responsible for overall resource distribution plus training and then overseeing, observing teachers, helping them in professional development. But because of the size of the responsibility that they have, and plus the political intervention that happens there, I mean how they are recruited and how they have to tackle teachers who are teacher union members, and how the a community looks to that is one thing. But let me bring in one more issue. Now, when does a public school function well? The answer will be when the community is fully involved in the school. But these days, the community leaders who have got some money to spend, the school teachers who earn enough to send their children to private schools. Now, community leaders and school teachers, head teachers send their children to private schools, and they are happy with that because the children's future is secure, let's say. That's what they think. Then, if your child is not going to a school, how responsible, how accountable you might feel, there is a question. So, I think if we set up a catchment area, I mean, if there is this rural municipality, let us say, if all children must go to the school there in that area, then all the parents, community leaders, whoever is enthusiastic to help education develop, then they will be coming to that school. And teachers will also respond in that way. Head teacher will be more accountable, more responsible, actually will be more in a more effortful way, and education will develop. So those who should be responsible have their children elsewhere. Now I'm expecting people who do not lose whether the school goes down or prospers. There is no difference for them, and this is the issue in the present context.
Well, let's talk about the university education as well. You are sending university graduates to these schools.
Yes.
How do you evaluate the quality of university education, particularly in English language?
I think in Nepal, the teachers who come out of the university system, there is a very mixed quality. There are some who are really good. Okay, you came from this university system, Nepalese university system. I came from these systems. Okay, so we are doing fine. We're using our English and we are doing our job. Well, but there are some students who come to the university with a real aim to learn. Even if their background was not good, they excel. But there are others who just want a certificate, or they just want to have a graduation, the degree, and then there is no particular future. For example, one day I was asking a education ministry official, I said, how many teacher education colleges are there in the country? And he was telling me that there are 500 plus colleges that produce teachers. From each of the colleges, English teachers come out. Now, do we need so many colleges? Do we actually need all the teachers who come out of the colleges? The answer is no. Then where do they go? So they end up in Korea, they end up in non-teaching jobs within the country, or they might be out of the academic things. Then, so if we have a big system where the graduates do not know what they are going to do in the future, I think the quality is questionable. But if someone is really committed to teaching, goes to the university, takes a degree, and looks to the future where teaching, learning will be his or her, part of life, I think their quality is not bad.
Don't you think that the university system is blamed for all these, malpractices?
Yes, there are university systems in the country where things are working fine. The classes are small, but there are some colleges in the country where the class size is very big. there is very difficult political practices going on. Student unions are working there, and even some university officials are recruited, or at least they get influenced in improving the system in the education. So I mean, university system is definitely to be blamed if the graduates do not perform well. But where do these university people come from? The administrators, is they are influenced by the overall general political system of the country. So the selection, the appointment, okay, the way they come in, and now they so who are they accountable for? They are accountable for the educational overall development of the university system, or they are accountable to the people who appointed them. So so this overall structure of the whole nation, I mean, I don't know, sometimes I say, where do we begin? I mean, we definitely need to start development of the country. I mean, we are doing, I mean, you look at the road, look at the transport, look at the local, surface transport or the air transport, look at the school system, look at the industries. So everywhere there are initiatives. I mean, people are trying from their side, but because everything is so much in a mess after the a long political deadlock that we have, the conflict that we have, but still, even in this chaos, I see that the order is starting. The people, professionals who are in the education system, they are you go to one school and you see, oh, they're trying something good, and you ask, oh, what is this? There's a progressive education. You go to another school and you see, oh, activity based education, and you go somewhere else, you say project based learning. And there are some schools that are implementing this farm based, the whole farm, the children live there, work there, produce the food for themselves, and they are living the life there. And then this OJT, the on the job training also is taking place. So that things, but on the surface, I think there are still issues, and universities definitely have to be held accountable, although they also have limitations.
Well, these students and teachers unions, they also claim that they are voicing
Yes.
against the university malpractices,
Yes.
against the administrators and all. Don't you think that it is a time for self-assessment within university systems as such in Nepal?
Yes, self-assessment by the university leadership, self-assessment by the faculties, and self-assessment by the students as well. I mean, we don't have a system of hire and fire in the country. I think that makes the university faculties, immune from any sort of, let me not use the word punishment. I mean, some sort of, they should be held accountable. If they do not perform well, then they should just leave the profession. But because there is also this unionism in some cases, and the Eastern perspective, I mean, by East, I mean the South Asian, I mean this Asian perspective, that once you are in the job, you are in the job forever. I mean, if you look at the graduation rate of my students. If they do not graduate in time, if they do not graduate well, if the employability is low, then I should be held accountable. But in most cases in the country, the faculties say that, oh, students don't study, oh, they're doing this, okay, I taught, I finished my course. Finishing the course is not the end of the story in teaching, okay, it is changing, transforming the students that come to you.
Well, Professor Gnawali, there are many interesting issues, but we are coming to the end of the show. Do you want to say to our audience very quickly that I have left to ask you?
I think we've covered a few things, but let me go back to one of the questions that you asked. What's the function of education for an individual or for the society? There are some functions, but one of them I think we need to promote better. That is, we need to teach our young generation to live together. Learning to know, okay, learning to do, okay, fine. I mean, there are other functions, but learning to live together. But now our education system is not producing graduates who would love to live together within their family, within their community, within their society, but they are developing very individualistic sort of attitude. I think value education is something that I would like to end our conversation with. I mean, we need to inject value education in our system from the very bottom.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share my thoughts on education. Thank you so much.
Dear audience, time now to wrap up the show. Keep watching us. See you next week. Namaste.